Hey there, I'm Jesse Whelan, the founder and director of Learning and Sandbox Learning, and today I'm going to answer another student question that's come in. So this student is saying, hi Jesse, I'm tossing up between picking English Standard and English Advanced, and I want some advice. So great question. A lot of students at many schools are kind of tossing up between there, and I want to explain why I firmly believe that students should be taking English Advanced over Standard. So let me just share my screen and we'll have a look at the presentation. So the first reason is that the subjects really aren't that different. What we have here is from NESA, which talks about the different syllabus between them. Most important point is there's a common module between English Standard and English Advanced. So regardless of whether you do English Standard or English Advanced, you're having to do that. The other point about the common module is the common module is not being marked by standard, the standard student performance is not being marked to a different standard to the English Advanced. They're all marked to the same standard, and that's actually used later on when we talk about scaling to scale the different subjects. So you don't, even though you may think that the subject is easier, you're not going to be marked for that to a lower standard. When you compare the other three modules, yes, you will see that English Advanced does require a deeper knowledge of English, more critical analysis overall. The other point is, particularly in Module A, you'll see that the English Advanced students have to study a pair of texts, whereas English Standard only do the one text, which means English Advanced are going to end up doing 5 texts across the year, as opposed to only 4 for English Standard. The other big difference is English Advanced will have Shakespeare. English Standard may have, generally doesn't. Up to school and any teacher. What I would say though is what makes a good essay, the way that you structure your essay, the way that you articulate a point, the way that you create, as per Module C, either a creative, a persuasive, and so on, they're the same. Right? The techniques that you need to do well in English Standard are going to be very similar to the techniques you need to do well in English Advanced. So if you can't do well in English Standard, you're unlikely to do well in English Advanced. And the same thing, by learning the right techniques that will enable you to do well in English Standard, you may as well do English Advanced. So I don't actually think the courses are that different, and they're not that much easier. The second important point is it's considerably harder to get a band 5 or 6 in Standard than it is in Advanced. And if you just look at the statistics here, what they have, this is from 2019, the results. If you look in English Standard, only 1% of students out of the 30,000 got a band 6, as opposed to 13% in English Advanced. When we look at band 5, then 11% got band 5 versus 48. So in total, getting a band 5 or 6, only 12% of students do that for English Standard versus 61% in English Advanced. Now, why that's important is increasingly universities, while moving away from ATAR, they are starting to mandate certain levels of English. And having a band 5 minimum is going to be important for a lot of courses. And by picking English Standard, going to make it a lot harder for you to do. So essentially, you're going to have to come in the top 10, 12% of the state in English Standard to be able to get that band 5. The other reason why it's harder is scaling, right? Everyone talks about scaling, and by and large, it doesn't matter that much. English is the one place that I believe it firmly matters. So let's take an example. And I'll explain, this is a bit of a complicated chart. What we have down the bottom here is the percentile, right? So that's where you rank in a course, and they're only showing from kind of the 50th, so whether you come in the middle of the course through to 100, so top of the course. Then on the vertical axis, we have the scaled mark. And so that's the mark that gets added with all your other marks for all your courses for your 10 best units to get your aggregate that ends up getting your ATAR. So there's a whole talk that I give on how the ATAR is calculated. If you're interested, check that out. What you need to know here is it's the scaled mark that will then go to your ATAR. Let's say you're trying to get an ATAR of about 80. That on average translates to you needing a scaled mark of about 30, 32. If you look at the different subjects here, in English Standard, in order to get a scaled mark of about 30, 32, you would need to place in the top kind of 94, 95%. Not just for English to put you on track to make ATAR. For 90 or above, halfway through the course. I hope that's giving you some check out Thanks so much.